Don't fear the IMF. Strauss-Kahn tells the Greeks we're here to help. Papandreou says a bailout is not pleasant but necessary. Don't touch the judge. Nationwide protests in Spain to support Garzón, accused of overstepping the mark in his Franco inquiry. Do turn out to vote. Austrians elect a new president today. Fischer's tipped to beat his right-wing challenger and win a second term. And victories already sealed for Hungary's Conservatives, but can round 2 of the general election deliver a supermajority? The head of the International Monetary Fund has sought to reassure Greeks who fear its involvement will make their country's situation worse. Talks over Greece-dominated IMF and World Bank meetings in Washington, a day after Athens sought a multi-billion euro rescue package from the agency and the EU. The IMF is known for demanding that borrowing countries make unpopular spending cuts. But its chief, although he wouldn't answer questions about Greece directly, said the IMF shouldn't be demonized.
The Greeks are not the only one demonizing the IMF. What is the IMF doing? Trying to provide advice on behalf of the entire international community? Try to provide resources to help on behalf of the entire community. So the Greek citizens shouldn't fear the IMF. We are there to try to help them.
The Greek Prime Minister George Papandreou says the country needs a bailout as a matter of national necessity. Some G20 countries are said to fear the 45 billion euros it's asking for may not be enough. The main obstacle is opposition in Germany, but analysts are warning that a deal must be reached quickly to prevent the turmoil in Greece from spreading to other Eurozone countries. Thousands of people have marched in Spain to support Judge Baltasar Garzón, accused of exceeding his powers by investigating atrocities committed under Franco's regime. He may face trial after a magistrate ruled that he acted without jurisdiction. Filmmaker Pedro Almodóvar joined demonstrators in Madrid, as did international campaigners outraged at the case. Governments have a judicial duty to take care of the victims. Why should the victims of Franco's regime have less rights than those of Pinochet's? 12 years ago, Judge Garzón leapt to prominence when he issued an international warrant for the Chilean dictator's arrest. His inquiry into atrocities committed during the Spanish Civil War of the 1930s and into Franco's long regime that followed has been shelved. But a Supreme Court magistrate has ruled that Garzón ignored an amnesty covering Civil War crimes and knew that he had no jurisdiction. Hundreds of Franco supporters protested against the judge. They accused Garzón of being politically motivated. Garzón is dedicated to trying to change history, blame us for what happened and trying to dig up the dead. But not to find them and return them to their families, but to change the story of what happened. The protests were largely peaceful despite 1 or 2 heated exchanges. But they illustrate how divisive a figure Judge Garzón has become in Spain by trying to lift the lid on the past.
Austrians go to the polls today to elect a new president. All the indications are that Heinz Fischer will win a second 6-year term. Opinion polls point to the 71-year-old former political sciences professor enjoying a comfortable majority. The pro-European Social Democrat's popularity among the 6 million-plus voters has increased since he first won office in 2004. Barbara Rosenkrantz is his closest challenger, but is still expected to get under 20% of the vote. The self-described housewife and mother of 10 has campaigned on family values. Her critics say she has pro-Nazi sympathies, and in the past she has opposed EU integration and called for the restoration of border controls between the 27 member states. It's the first time 16-year-olds in the country will be able to vote, and they will have the choice of a third candidate. Rudolf Gehring is running for the Christian Party of Austria, though it's not expected he will make an impact.
Hungary's centre-right Fidesz party goes into the second round of parliamentary elections today already sure of victory. The party, allied to the Christian Democrats, ousted the governing socialists in the first round by winning more than half the overall number of seats, while the far-right Jobbik party is set to enter parliament for the first time. Fidesz leader Viktor Orbán, set to become prime minister for the second time, said that Hungarians had voted to defeat hopelessness. If the party gets a 2/3 majority, it'll have the strongest mandate to implement reforms in Hungary's post-communist history. The party has put economic growth at the centre of its campaign. The defeated socialists in power for the last 8 years suffered the consequences of unpopular austerity measures imposed after the country was badly hit by the financial crisis. Some other news in brief. Austria has signed up to build part of Russia's South Stream gas pipeline. The Austrian Chancellor Werner Faymann and the Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin met in Vienna to sign the deal. The pipeline will run under the Black Sea to the Balkans and into Austria. Putin said it would serve Russian and European demand for the next 100 years. He criticized the EU's rival Nabucco project as futile. Gay rights activists in the Peruvian capital Lima have protested over remarks by the Vatican's number 2 linking the Catholic Church's sex scandals to homosexuality. As they demonstrated in front of the Vatican's embassy, their leader said Cardinal Tarcisio Bertoni's comments equating being gay with paedophilia promoted hate and discrimination. And cashing in on the ash, the volcanic cloud may have closed Iceland's airports for a while, but some enterprising individuals have been taking advantage to do a little business on the side. They hope to sell their volcano merchandising to the droves of tourists who are expected to visit once the cloud disappears.